Yo, it's weird to be this tired during the day. Anyway, Fresville Comic Book University, and yeah, so I knew that. I actually meant to say that at the end of the last video, the previous video, front towards enemy, the title of this episode. I knew it had to have something to do with a claymore. So yeah, I love that, man. They just have a great way of like explaining what the item is, because like I'm sitting here thinking to myself, oh, I'm gonna have to explain what a claymore is to everybody. It actually has, it's rounded, and the round part actually says front towards enemy. You face it that way. It's got the two little bipods, facing out, where you just stick it in, and it's wire, and you bring it all over. Was it like 25 meters the wire, something like that? Bring it all the way back and get down. And it's got the attachment. Every single one of these has got the big attachment. And everything. Just fire, fire, fire. I think that's what you say. I can't remember. It's been freaking years. All right, early 90s. All right, I was out before the year 2000, so it's been a while. But something like fire, something like that. It's not fire in the hole. That's what you say when you throw a grenade in a fox pit. Anyway, so foxhole. Wow, I'm tired. So anyway, that was wicked. Seeing that kid beat up Curtis with his own leg. That's messed up, man. Like, you knew it was gonna happen, but it's like, dude. But I can seriously sympathize with Kurt. Like, getting older. I'm 42, not quite as young as I used to be, and I do know like the feeling of having to, it's going to sound a lot more violent than it has to, but the idea of like, just play wrestling against somebody who's just a lot younger than you, but, physically, sometimes not even stronger. Just the idea of he's younger and he's not going to get winded as fast as you will, And the idea is like, wow, that took way too long to beat this kid. And then, like, one of these days it's going to happen. I actually couldn't beat the kid. Actually, that did happen one time, wrestling a Lebanese guy over in Saudi. That was a fun little trip. Guy actually didn't have any idea how to actually fight, but he was just so much stronger than me, and I lost wind way too soon. It sucks getting old, guys. It genuinely does. It genuinely does. It is what it is. So, like, I honestly know what Curtis feels like. He's like the peaceful. I'm calm with everything what happened. Yes, I still have nightmares and all this crazy stuff. I love the psychology of this. This was so good. Wow. I'm actually wondering like what people who didn't serve. How do they feel about the Curtis situation? Because for me, like it rung. Here's this guy who was a genuine tough guy. He didn't feel the need to prove he was tough anymore. But then all of a sudden, here comes this need to be tough. And first off, he was kind of stupid going there alone. You're not going to talk a dude, especially you smell dead. Like, dude, if you've been in the military, you know what a dead body smells like. Come on. So he knew that something was going on in there. He didn't have to know it was his dad, but he knew somebody was dead on that chair over there. For crying out loud. So when you go back and you call the police. But something similar to that happened also. They said at one point, all the people, there it was, always Billy Bad, Billy the Butte, the predecessor to the Jigsaw persona. He goes and he says, did you ever think that maybe it was your partner's fault? I mean, how did he get stabbed against a guy with a gun? Or he had a gun and he got stabbed. How did that happen? It was his fault. This is all still victim blaming. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he shouldn't have gotten that close to a freaking guy when it's like you took his knife, you took all of his weapons that you thought he had on him, didn't realize that he was going all, do I even have the thing on me? Yes, I do. I love this stupid thing. My little, what do you call it? My Assassin's Creed the knife. I absolutely love this thing. But like he's going up against a guy who thinks that he's the Assassin's Creed. There we go. Saying like, why would you do that? Why would you ever do that? So yeah, all the training in the world, just if you don't follow it, you're dumb. I don't know what to tell you. Was it his fault? It was his fault that he made a mistake. It's not his fault that he was killed, that he died. That's not nobody's fault. You don't blame the victim, just all sorts of people who get victimized, whether they accept that they were a victim or not. You don't blame the victim. So that was rough. But at the same time, you also see where freedom of thought, freedom of speech, where that kind of thing can go wrong with this. This was really good. That kid, Lewis, you know. Um, this is what happens with right wing extremists. And I'm going to say something that might surprise you. It's the right wing that goes extreme. I mean, you have a left wing extremist, he's called a hippie. You know what I'm saying? You have a right wing extremist. I hate to tell you this, it's not just in America. Taliban, ISIS, all the places with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, those are right wing extremists. Why is that the case? Because what does that mean? It means that you've got something and you don't want it to change, and you're just holding on to it with dear life. And they express that so well in here. Just think about what the kid kept on saying. Oh, this is, they're trying to take away our guns. Okay, so then what does he do when the cop? You remember when the cop earlier, a couple episodes ago, that jerk of a cop who was making up the rules as he was going. Lewis and that idiot who faked his not his career but his service record. All right, that idiot of a cop went and said to the kid, you need to go now. Oh, are you reaching for my gun? Stop reaching for my gun. Like, there's the warning sign right there. This guy's a piece of garbage. And against that, let's be realistic, against that vet, if that vet would have actually gone after that cop, who cares if he's got a gun? Who cares if he's got his baton? Who cares if he's got his pepper spray? Who cares if he's got his taser? He wouldn't have been able to reach for any of that stuff. You saw how this kid moved. That's the kind of stuff that we're trained at. And that's just the Army. I know the Corps, they go through a lot more than we go through, but let me tell you something. Freaking cops aren't trained for stuff like that. I know. I trained with state troopers in Seagirt, New Jersey. These guys don't know what they're doing. Not like that. So, and this guy wasn't a state trooper. He was a beat cop. So, no disrespect towards cops, but yeah, cops are better with their voice than they are with just about anything else. You know, the whole, are you sure? That's cute. When you're ready to, take a glass of water and calm down, let's actually have a conversation. So, the kid was right. You know what I'm saying? Lewis was right. This is my First Amendment right. Talking about his Second Amendment, but looking at his First Amendment. But then what happens later on? Now what happens in this episode? Karen Page thinks that she can just write whatever she wants to write and say whatever she wants to say. Yeah, it's called the freedom of speech. It's the First Amendment. That's one of the tenets of the First Amendment. So that's the funny thing. The right-wing extremists, they're always about the Second Amendment. They forget that there are 9 other amendments that came with the Constitution, and more than 20 in total. I don't actually remember how many amendments to the Constitution there are. But like, for crying out loud, dude. Come on, man. Come on. So, yeah, that's the problem. There are right-wing extremists all over the world. So when you actually have hate group after hate group after hate group and they're all fighting each other, that's all the right wing. The left wing are all the hippies. Me, I like to stand right in the middle and look at all these morons and just go, dude, eventually they'll all be gone. Eventually. Or at least I won't have to deal with this stuff anymore and I'll be gone. So this was, keeping it about the episode, yeah, this ran deep. This ran deep. I don't know what else to say. I'm genuinely enjoying this stuff. Even when I start nodding off a little bit, something happens where I'm so invested in this show. It's great. It's sending a political message. It's great considering the modern day. Just this episode alone, what Lewis was saying, with this kid Lewis was saying to Frank on the phone, meanwhile they're like right there from each other, I could see why they delayed this a couple of weeks after the Las Vegas shooting, because this would definitely hit very close to home. What a world we live in. All right, guys. Professor Bell, Comic Book University. See you in a bit.